The story of Atlantis begins with the ancient philosopher Plato, who first told of a magnificent civilization that vanished into the depths of the ocean. His account, written in Timaeus and Critias, paints a picture of a powerful island kingdom far beyond anything we could imagine today. The Atlanteans, Plato claimed, were a people who flourished, ruled by kings, blessed with wealth, knowledge, and advanced technology. But they were also warned of their hubris, too much pride, too much greed, and their ultimate downfall was inevitable. It was as if the gods themselves had decided their fate. But here's where things get murky. Many scholars debate whether Plato was recounting a real historical event, or simply using the tale as an allegory. Was Atlantis real, or was it just a warning, a story crafted to remind future generations of the dangers of overreach and arrogance? As we peer into this ancient tale, we find ourselves asking more questions than we have answers. Some believe Plato's writings are the only true records we have of Atlantis' existence.
Others suggest that the story was a symbolic creation, a lesson in the dangers of unchecked power and civilization's fleeting nature.
What if Plato was not just recounting history but telling us something deeper about human nature, something hidden in plain sight? For centuries, explorers and adventurers have ventured far and wide, hoping to uncover the lost continent. Every year, new theories surface. Atlantis could be hidden in the Mediterranean, perhaps near the Greek islands. Or maybe it's beneath the Caribbean Sea, its ruins submerged by a cataclysmic event. Some even point to Antarctica, suggesting that the polar ice may have once been a lush paradise, only to have been frozen over in a long-forgotten age. But with each passing generation, the truth seems to slip further from our grasp, like sand through an open hand. Yet, despite these theories, Atlantis remains elusive. There is no definitive proof, no evidence of a vast city, no hidden treasure troves waiting to be discovered. And yet the legend endures. Why? What is it about Atlantis that continues to capture our collective imagination? Why do we feel a magnetic pull to this story, even when the evidence is thin, almost non-existent? Perhaps, like Plato, we are being shown something larger than just a lost city. Maybe Atlantis represents something we can't quite grasp, something about our own hidden histories, something about the limits of what we know. What if the story of Atlantis is a reflection of humanity's struggle with its own past, its own secrets, and its own potential for greatness? We are left to wonder, did Atlantis truly exist, or is it simply an echo from the distant past, a myth woven into the fabric of human consciousness? In the next section, we will explore the man who first brought Atlantis to the world, Plato, and his mysterious writings, trying to uncover whether they were meant as a cautionary tale or a glimpse into a lost world. The truth, if it exists, may be even more remarkable than the myth itself. Plato's writings are the only known ancient texts that speak of Atlantis. His dialogues, Timaeus and Critias, are the foundations of the story. But here's the catch. These texts were not written as historical accounts, but as philosophical discussions. Plato's Timaeus recounts the story of Atlantis as told by a priest from Egypt to the Athenian statesman Solon, a tale passed down through generations. And yet there's something odd about the way Plato presents it. He speaks of Atlantis in the past tense, as if the island was a real physical place, but there's no solid evidence to support its existence. Some wonder, was Plato simply using the Atlantis story as a metaphor, a cautionary tale about the dangers of pride and hubris? Or was he recounting a lost history that he believed had a deeper significance for his time? The dialogue Critias offers a more detailed look at the civilization of Atlantis. It describes an advanced, rich society with sprawling palaces, sophisticated technologies, and awe-inspiring architecture. However, it also introduces the central conflict: how Atlantis' rulers, once virtuous and divine, became corrupted by their growing power and greed. Could Plato have created this tale as an allegory for the rise and fall of civilizations, warning his audience against the very traits that led to Atlantis' destruction? What's even more curious is that Plato's account is the only surviving, detailed description of Atlantis. There are no other ancient records or archaeological findings to corroborate his story. This has led many to question whether Plato was simply spinning a fantastic yarn, drawing inspiration from his imagination or from other ancient mythologies. Yet there are those who believe Plato's writings were more than mere fiction. Perhaps he was preserving the memory of an actual civilization, one that disappeared long before his time. As we examine Plato's account, we are left to wonder, if Atlantis was a real place, why did Plato only mention it in these two dialogues? And if it wasn't real, why did he go to such lengths to describe it in such detail? The mystery of Atlantis, as Plato presents it, remains one of history's greatest enigmas, its truth hidden behind layers of myth, metaphor, and unanswered questions. What if Plato was telling us more than just a story? What if he was warning us of something much deeper, something that has yet to be uncovered? The lines between history and legend blur as we consider the implications of his words, and we are left to ponder. What part of Atlantis might be true, and what might remain hidden from us forever? The questions raised by Plato's writings lead us to the next mystery, the physical location of Atlantis itself. Could it be that Plato's words, while enigmatic, contained a breadcrumb trail to an ancient civilization lost to time? The search for Atlantis, both its origins and its truths, continues, with each new theory adding more layers to the legend. The search for Atlantis has sparked the imagination of explorers, archaeologists, and dreamers for centuries. And while Plato's description provided a tantalizing glimpse into the grandeur of this lost civilization, it left us with little more than speculation about where Atlantis might have been located. Some believe that the location of Atlantis is hidden somewhere beneath the waves, waiting to be uncovered by the right adventurer, while others think it's buried deep within the history of ancient civilizations, waiting for the right clues to surface. One of the most widely proposed locations is the Mediterranean. Some suggest that Atlantis could have been situated near the Greek island of Santorini, the site of a catastrophic volcanic eruption around 1600 BCE. This eruption, which devastated the Minoan civilization, is thought to have caused massive tidal waves and earthquakes, events similar to the destruction described in Plato's story. The idea that Santorini, once a thriving island, could be the remnants of Atlantis offers a compelling possibility. The ruins of the ancient Minoan city of Akrotiri, preserved by volcanic ash, also resemble Plato's description of a highly advanced society. Could it be that Santorini was once Atlantis, a thriving island city that was swallowed by the sea? Further out, in the Atlantic Ocean, another theory has persisted for centuries. The idea that Atlantis lies somewhere beyond the Pillars of Hercules, now known as the Strait of Gibraltar. According to Plato, Atlantis was a vast island, much larger than Libya and Asia Minor combined. This idea, first proposed by early explorers like Sir Francis Bacon, has inspired countless searches across the Atlantic. Could the Caribbean hold the key to Atlantis? Some suggest that the Azores, the Canary Islands, and even the Bahamas could be remnants of this lost world, sunken beneath the waves in some ancient cataclysm. The Caribbean hypothesis presents an intriguing possibility. An island civilization lost not in a volcanic eruption, but to the merciless tides of time. The most daring theory suggests that Atlantis could be located in the polar regions, under the icy expanse of Antarctica. According to this hypothesis, Atlantis was once a lush, temperate land that existed thousands of years ago, long before the ice sheets began their slow encroachment. Some even claim that Atlantis was part of an ancient civilization that predates recorded history, which was preserved in secret knowledge hidden by those who survived its fall. The theory ties Atlantis to the idea of a global catastrophe that reshaped the Earth's geography, wiping out ancient civilizations and leaving behind nothing but myths and legends. As we sift through these theories, we can't help but wonder, could Atlantis be hidden under one of these forgotten lands, awaiting discovery? Or are we, like so many before us, chasing shadows and myths in an endless quest for something that may never be found? The truth remains elusive, slipping further away with each passing year, leaving us to ponder. Could the key to unlocking Atlantis lie in understanding not just where it was, but why it vanished? Perhaps the answer lies not in its location, but in the lost knowledge it left behind. Could that hidden wisdom offer clues to something even greater, secrets about our own past and the fragile nature of civilization itself? Next, we'll explore the ongoing debate over Atlantis's existence and the question that haunts every researcher. Was it real, or just a dream of an ancient philosopher? The question of whether Atlantis was a real place or merely a product of myth is one that continues to stir the minds of historians, archaeologists, and truth-seekers around the world. Plato's accounts, while vivid and compelling, are not enough to conclusively prove the existence of this fabled civilization. So where does that leave us? Was Atlantis a thriving society that once existed, or was it simply a fantastical story created to warn future generations of their own potential downfalls? On one side, there are those who believe wholeheartedly in the existence of Atlantis. They point to Plato's writings as evidence, claiming that the philosopher's detailed descriptions of Atlantis's grandeur, its advanced technology, its beautiful cities, its powerful rulers, could not have been entirely fictional. After all, Plato was no ordinary storyteller. He was a philosopher of great renown, known for his logical reasoning and meticulous thought. Why would he create such an elaborate tale, unless it was based on something real? Some even suggest that Plato was drawing from older, now-lost accounts, passed down through generations of Egyptian priests, suggesting that the tale of Atlantis has ancient roots, buried beneath layers of time. But there is another camp that argues Atlantis was, at best, a cautionary allegory, a story crafted to teach the dangers of hubris, greed, and the inevitable fall of powerful civilizations. The very details that make Atlantis so alluring, the sudden disappearance beneath the sea, the moral lessons about the gods punishing the wicked, are similar to many other ancient myths, which often reflect the cyclical rise and fall of societies. From this perspective, Atlantis serves as a metaphor, a philosophical warning about the consequences of human excess and arrogance. Plato may have invented Atlantis, or perhaps he simply adapted an older legend to make a point. Then, there's the view that Atlantis may never have existed in the way Plato described, but instead reflects an amalgamation of various ancient societies that flourished and then faded away. Many believe that Plato's story was an attempt to link the lost civilizations of the past, blending truths and myths to create a compelling narrative about a civilization lost to time. In this sense, Atlantis could be a composite, a melting pot of forgotten histories rather than a single, isolated culture. Modern scholars, too, have weighed in on the debate. Archaeologists, geologists, and even oceanographers have tried to uncover any physical evidence of Atlantis, from underwater ruins to traces of advanced technology. Yet, despite their best efforts, no conclusive proof has surfaced. Some researchers argue that Atlantis may have been a small, forgotten society that never gained the prominence Plato described, while others suggest that the lack of evidence is simply due to the passage of time, the very forces that might have erased Atlantis from history. The mystery remains, and as we dive deeper into the puzzle of Atlantis, we are left with more questions than answers. Was it a lost civilization? A philosophical allegory? Or simply an elaborate tale woven from the threads of ancient myths? The debate will continue to rage, leaving us to wonder if the truth lies somewhere between the pages of Plato's writings and the depths of the ocean floor. Perhaps the real story of Atlantis isn't about whether it existed, but about the enduring power of myths themselves, the way they evolve, influence, and persist, even as the years roll by. As we venture further, we'll explore the dramatic tale of Atlantis' destruction, where even more uncertainty lurks. Was the fall of Atlantis simply a result of natural forces, or could there be a deeper, more mysterious explanation behind its demise? The destruction of Atlantis is as mysterious as the rise of this legendary civilization. According to Plato's accounts, the downfall of Atlantis occurred over a single day and night, when a cataclysmic event caused the great island to sink into the sea. The earth trembled, massive earthquakes and floods ravaged the land, and in an instant, the once glorious civilization was lost to the depths of the ocean. But was this truly the cause of Atlantis' fall, or is there something deeper at play? Plato's description of the cataclysmic event suggests a violent and sudden end, but it raises the question, could an entire continent really vanish in a single day? What caused such a massive upheaval in the Earth's crust? And how could a civilization so advanced and prosperous be wiped away so quickly? Some suggest that Atlantis' destruction could be linked to a natural disaster, such as a volcanic eruption or an earthquake of unprecedented scale. The idea that such a powerful event could sink an entire island is a chilling thought, especially when we consider the catastrophic volcanic eruption on the island of Thera, modern-day Santorini, which devastated the Minoan civilization. Yet, there are other theories that suggest Atlantis' downfall may not have been purely natural. Could the destruction of Atlantis have been the result of divine wrath, as Plato hinted at? Perhaps the gods, displeased with the growing arrogance and corruption of the Atlantean rulers, decided to punish them by destroying their great civilization. In this sense, Atlantis' fall could represent a moral lesson about the consequences of greed, pride, and the abuse of power. Could this divine retribution be the true reason for its sudden disappearance? Then, there are those who propose that the fall of Atlantis wasn't a result of any single event, but rather the culmination of a slow decline, a gradual decay brought on by internal strife, corruption, and the failure of the rulers to heed the warnings of the gods. Could the city have collapsed from within, crumbling under the weight of its own ambition? No matter the cause, the sudden disappearance of Atlantis continues to captivate us. Whether it was a natural disaster, divine punishment, or the collapse of an empire, the fall of Atlantis serves as a haunting reminder of the fragility of even the greatest civilizations. As we continue our journey, we will delve into the possibility of a global cataclysm that might have affected not just Atlantis, but the entire world. Could the fall of Atlantis have been a warning for humanity, one that we are still trying to decipher today? The sudden and dramatic disappearance of Atlantis has sparked one of the most enduring theories about its fate. The idea that its destruction was not just a localized event, but part of a global cataclysm that reshaped the Earth itself. If we believe Plato's account, the demise of Atlantis was swift and complete, an entire island swallowed by the ocean in a single day and night. Could such a catastrophic event have been part of a larger planetary shift, one that affected not only Atlantis, but the entire world? And if so, what does that tell us about the fragility of our own civilization? One of the most widely discussed possibilities is that Atlantis was destroyed by a natural disaster of unprecedented scale, such as a massive earthquake or a volcanic eruption. The idea of a sudden, earth-shaking event that can swallow entire cities is not just a myth. It has happened before. The eruption of the Thera volcano, which devastated the Minoan civilization on the island of Santorini, is often cited as a possible inspiration for Plato's account. The eruption, which occurred around 1600 BCE, released such an enormous amount of volcanic material that it caused a series of catastrophic events, earthquakes, tsunamis, and widespread destruction across the Mediterranean. Could Atlantis have been the victim of a similar disaster, a cataclysm that altered the very geography of the Earth, leaving no trace behind? But what if the destruction of Atlantis wasn't just the result of a single disaster? Some researchers propose that the fall of Atlantis was part of a global cataclysm that affected many ancient civilizations. The theory of a global disaster, whether it be an asteroid impact, a polar shift, or an ice age, has long fascinated those who seek answers to Atlantis' disappearance. Could a massive comet or asteroid have struck the Earth, triggering tsunamis, earthquakes, and widespread fires that would have wiped out Atlantis and other ancient societies around the world? Ancient myths from cultures all over the globe tell of great floods, fiery skies, and destructive events that sound eerily similar to the story of Atlantis. Perhaps the most intriguing aspect of this theory is the idea that the fall of Atlantis wasn't just a random event, but a cosmic warning for humanity. Some believe that the destruction of Atlantis was a sign, a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked progress, environmental destruction, or the overreach of powerful civilizations. Could it be that the catastrophe was not just an accident of nature, but a force that was intended to reset the balance of the world, to prevent humanity from reaching too far too quickly? If Atlantis was a society that had mastered incredible technologies, perhaps its destruction was necessary to ensure the survival of future generations. A reminder that no civilization is invulnerable. The theory of a global cataclysm raises many unsettling questions. Could such an event happen again? Are we on the brink of another great shift in the Earth's history? And if Atlantis was a warning, are we listening to the lessons of the past? As we consider these possibilities, the mystery of Atlantis deepens, and we are left to wonder if the story of its fall is not just the history of one lost civilization, but a universal story of rise and fall, progress and destruction that could apply to us all. In the next section, we'll explore the possibility that Atlantis possessed hidden knowledge, wisdom so advanced that it might still hold the answers to some of humanity's greatest mysteries. Could the Atlanteans have understood things that we are only beginning to comprehend today? Among the many mysteries surrounding Atlantis, one of the most tantalizing is the possibility that the Atlanteans possessed knowledge far beyond anything we can comprehend today. Plato's account hints at a civilization that was not only technologically advanced, but also spiritually enlightened. The island cities were said to be full of magnificent temples, grand palaces, and intricate systems of irrigation and energy, suggesting a culture that had mastered both the physical and metaphysical aspects of existence. But the true nature of this knowledge remains shrouded in mystery, leaving us to wonder. What if the Atlanteans knew something we have long forgotten? Some believe that the Atlanteans possessed technology so advanced that it could rival the most sophisticated inventions of the modern world, or perhaps even surpass them. Was there, for instance, a form of energy generation that could power entire cities without the need for fossil fuels or electricity? Could the Atlanteans have harnessed forces like magnetism or gravity, creating devices that we could only dream of today? Ancient texts and myths often speak of mysterious energy stones or power crystals that were said to be used by ancient civilizations, and some theorists suggest that Atlantis may have been the original source of such knowledge. These so-called Atlantean power sources could have provided the civilization with limitless energy, enabling them to build extraordinary technologies that might have been lost in the cataclysm that wiped out the island. Others argue that the knowledge of Atlantis wasn't just scientific or technological, but also deeply spiritual. Could the Atlanteans have understood the secrets of the human mind, perhaps unlocking powers of the consciousness that we are only beginning to explore? Some propose that they mastered the ability to manipulate energy at a quantum level, perhaps even accessing psychic abilities such as telepathy, telekinesis, or remote viewing. Ancient cultures often described their spiritual leaders as possessing extraordinary powers, and it's possible that these abilities were not simply mythological exaggerations, but the remnants of a long-lost understanding of human potential. Could Atlantis have been a place where human beings lived in harmony with a higher consciousness, connected to forces of nature that we can barely begin to understand? And then there's the theory that the knowledge of Atlantis was more esoteric, hidden away from the public eye. Could the secrets of Atlantis have been deliberately concealed, not because they were too dangerous, but because they were too powerful for the average person to comprehend? Perhaps the Atlanteans discovered truths about the universe, the soul, or the nature of reality itself. Secrets that were too profound to be shared with a world that wasn't ready for them. These ideas, once whispered by the mystics of the past, could hold the key to understanding the rise and fall of civilizations, as well as our place in the vastness of existence. But why, if Atlantis possessed such advanced knowledge, has it been lost to time? Was it purposefully hidden after the fall of the civilization, locked away in secret locations, or safeguarded by those who survived the cataclysm? Or did the knowledge simply fade into obscurity, buried by the passage of time and the destruction that wiped Atlantis from the map? As we ponder these questions, we find ourselves wondering, if Atlantis did hold such knowledge, is there any chance that it could still be uncovered today? Could the wisdom of Atlantis, be it technological, spiritual, or both, hold the answers to some of our greatest mysteries? In the next section, we will explore the potential connections between Atlantis and other ancient civilizations, searching for clues that might reveal a shared heritage of lost wisdom. Were the Egyptians, Mayans, and Sumerians influenced by this forgotten civilization? Could Atlantis have left an indelible mark on the cultures that followed? The idea that Atlantis might have influenced other ancient civilizations is one of the most intriguing aspects of the legend. Throughout history, we've seen remarkable similarities in the architecture, mythology, and technological achievements of distant cultures, despite these civilizations being separated by vast distances and time periods. Could it be that these ancient societies were linked by a common source, perhaps a lost civilization like Atlantis? Could the wisdom of this once great civilization have traveled through the ages, leaving behind traces in the cultures that followed? Take the Egyptians, for example. Their pyramids, with their precise alignment to the stars and their sheer size, have long been a source of fascination. Some researchers have proposed that the Egyptians couldn't have built such monumental structures without assistance, either from advanced technology or from knowledge passed down from an earlier, more sophisticated civilization. What if the secrets of pyramid building came from Atlantis? Plato described the Atlanteans as having vast knowledge of engineering and architecture, with cities built using a highly advanced system of measurement and design. Could the Egyptians, through trade or cultural exchange, have learned these techniques from survivors of Atlantis? Then there's the case of the Mayans. The Mayan civilization, known for its extraordinary achievements in astronomy, mathematics, and architecture, also possessed a mysterious knowledge of time, most famously in the form of their long-count calendar. Some researchers argue that the Mayans' understanding of the cosmos and their precise calendar could have been influenced by Atlantis. Could it be that the Atlanteans had mapped the stars and understood celestial movements with such precision that their knowledge was passed down to the Mayans, who then incorporated it into their own culture? The similarities between their calendars and the supposed wisdom of Atlantis are striking. Both civilizations seem to possess an extraordinary understanding of time and the cosmos. And what about the Sumerians? Often regarded as the world's first great civilization, the Sumerians were pioneers in writing, law, and agriculture, laying the foundation for much of what we know today. But how did they acquire such knowledge so early in human history? Some theorists believe that the Sumerians' advances were not born out of their own ingenuity, but were instead the result of contact with an older, more advanced society. Could the Sumerians have learned their technological and intellectual feats from the survivors of Atlantis, who were scattered across the world after the civilization's destruction? If Atlantis was indeed real, could the remnants of its knowledge have influenced the earliest civilizations, leaving behind clues in the form of advanced architecture, scientific understanding, and writing systems? As we examine these connections, it becomes clear that the idea of a shared source of wisdom, whether it was Atlantis or another lost civilization, raises more questions than it answers. Were these ancient cultures truly influenced by a lost civilization, or were these similarities just a product of humanity's shared drive to understand the world? Regardless of the answer, the notion that Atlantis might have been the foundation for so many of humanity's great achievements only adds to its mystery. In the next section, we will explore the search for Atlantis, examining the expeditions and theories that have tried, unsuccessfully, for the most part, to uncover its lost ruins. Could modern technology, like underwater exploration and satellite imagery, finally reveal the truth about Atlantis? Or will it remain one of history's most elusive secrets? For centuries, the quest to find Atlantis has captivated explorers, scientists, and dreamers alike. The idea of discovering the lost remnants of such a grand civilization is irresistible, and the search for Atlantis has spurred numerous expeditions to distant and mysterious places. But despite the passion and resources invested, no one has yet uncovered the definitive proof that Atlantis existed in the way Plato described. Still, the allure of Atlantis endures, fueling expeditions that venture into uncharted waters and remote lands in hopes of uncovering the truth. The first serious attempts to find Atlantis began in the 19th century, when scholars and adventurers started combing through ancient texts, including Plato's dialogues, for clues about the island's location. Some early theories proposed that Atlantis might have been located in the Mediterranean, possibly near the Greek island of Santorini, where the eruption of the Thera volcano could have led to the sudden collapse of a flourishing civilization. The eruption in 1600 BCE caused massive devastation, and many wondered if this could have been the event that Plato had described, with the island of Atlantis sinking into the sea in a single cataclysmic moment. More recently, technological advancements have breathed new life into the search. Underwater explorations, satellite imagery, and sonar mapping have allowed scientists to search for submerged cities and ancient ruins beneath the ocean's surface. The discovery of submerged structures in places like the Bahamas and the Azores has fueled speculation that these could be remnants of Atlantis, or at least evidence of ancient civilizations with advanced knowledge of architecture and engineering. In fact, the so-called Bimini Road off the coast of Florida, a series of underwater stone formations, has been hailed by some as the remains of an Atlantean city, though skeptics remain unconvinced. Despite these tantalizing discoveries, the search for Atlantis continues to be filled with more questions than answers. Some believe that the ruins of Atlantis may lie deeper beneath the ocean than current technology can reach, hidden from view by centuries of shifting tides and currents. Others argue that the island never existed at all, and that Atlantis is simply a product of myth and imagination. Yet the possibility that we are on the cusp of uncovering this ancient mystery keeps the search alive, with new expeditions set to explore areas in the Mediterranean, the Caribbean, and even Antarctica. As we stand on the brink of new discoveries, it's hard not to wonder, will we ever find Atlantis? Or is it destined to remain just out of reach, a tantalizing mystery that we are forever chasing? In the next section, we will explore the possibility that the truth behind Atlantis is being deliberately hidden, perhaps by those with the power to suppress knowledge that could change the course of history. As the search for Atlantis continues, another, more unsettling theory has emerged. What if the truth about Atlantis is being hidden, deliberately suppressed by powerful forces? What if the lost knowledge of this ancient civilization holds secrets so profound that they threaten the very foundations of our modern world? The idea that Atlantis's true story has been deliberately obscured adds a new layer of mystery to an already enigmatic tale. What are they trying to protect us from? And why would such a powerful truth be kept under lock and key? One possibility is that the advanced technology of Atlantis, if it existed, could have revolutionized our understanding of energy, medicine, or even the very structure of reality. Imagine the implications of discovering that the Atlanteans had unlocked the secrets to clean, limitless energy, technology far beyond what we currently possess. Such a discovery could render our dependence on fossil fuels obsolete, upend entire industries, and change the course of global power dynamics. Could it be that those who control the world's energy resources are deliberately keeping the truth about Atlantis hidden to maintain their stranglehold on power and influence? There's also the possibility that the knowledge Atlantis held wasn't technological, but spiritual. Could the Atlanteans have understood the deeper mysteries of consciousness, time, or the universe itself? What if they discovered methods to tap into hidden dimensions, manipulate time, or harness psychic abilities? Such knowledge would be incredibly disruptive, challenging the very structure of modern society, religion, and science. What if the powers that be, whether governments, religious institutions, or secret societies, are suppressing this knowledge because it would render their current systems of control irrelevant? The idea that a lost civilization could possess such profound wisdom raises uncomfortable questions about what we truly know and what we are being kept in the dark about. And then there's the question of the potential dangers that this hidden knowledge could pose. Could the Atlanteans, in their pursuit of advanced technology or spiritual power, have discovered something too dangerous to be shared? The theory of a global cataclysm, linked to the fall of Atlantis, suggests that perhaps their downfall was not just a result of pride, but a consequence of tampering with forces they could not fully control. If Atlantis had unlocked a power that led to their destruction, would those who know the truth fear the same fate befalling us? The suppression of Atlantis's secrets might not be a conspiracy at all. It could be the natural result of societies that are afraid of what would happen if this ancient knowledge were unleashed. Perhaps the truth behind Atlantis is buried so deeply in history that no one living today truly understands its scope. Or maybe there are those who have always known, and they are content to let the legend remain just that, an ancient myth, half forgotten, with no more relevance than the bedtime stories of old. But as we consider these possibilities, one thing is clear: the story of Atlantis is more than just a search for a lost city. It's a search for the answers to questions that have plagued humanity for millennia. What if the secrets of Atlantis hold the key to understanding our past, our present, and our future? Could the truth about Atlantis be the final piece of the puzzle that explains why civilizations rise and fall, and what we are truly capable of as a species? The mystery of Atlantis is far from over. In fact, it may be only just beginning. As we dig deeper into the story of this ancient civilization, the stakes only grow higher. What are we really looking for in the ruins of Atlantis? The lost city? The knowledge? Or something far more profound? a truth that could change everything we think we know about our world and ourselves. In the story of Atlantis, the gods play an essential role in shaping the rise and fall of this fabled civilization. According to Plato, Atlantis was not merely a human creation, but was founded by the god Poseidon himself. Poseidon, the god of the sea, is said to have fallen in love with a mortal woman named Plato, and together they had 5 sets of twins. It was from these twins that the 10 kings of Atlantis descended, each ruling a portion of the island. The divine origins of Atlantis were key to its prosperity. Poseidon himself was said to have granted the Atlanteans wisdom and power, allowing them to become the rulers of a mighty civilization. Poseidon's connection to Atlantis didn't stop at its founding. His influence is believed to have been deeply woven into the very fabric of the island. The great capital of Atlantis, described by Plato as a vast and awe-inspiring city, was said to be protected by powerful divine forces. The center of Atlantis was marked by a temple dedicated to Poseidon, a symbol of the god's protection over the city. This temple was said to have contained an enormous statue of Poseidon, who was depicted driving 6 winged horses, a majestic symbol of the god's immense power. The Atlanteans, under the guidance of their divine ancestor, thrived in wealth and wisdom. The gods had blessed them with incredible advances in engineering, art, and science. Yet, as with all stories of divine favor, the rise of Atlantis was also linked to its eventual fall. The gods of Atlantis weren't just beneficent beings, they were also capable of wrath. As the Atlanteans grew in power and prosperity, they began to lose their way. No longer did they honor the gods as they once had. Their rulers, the descendants of Poseidon, became greedy and corrupt. Plato's story suggests that the gods, seeing this arrogance and pride, decided to punish the Atlanteans. Was their downfall the result of divine intervention? Was the destruction of Atlantis a punishment for mankind's hubris? The parallels between Atlantis' story and other mythological tales of divine retribution are striking, making us question whether the gods were truly wrathful or if they were simply the bearers of a necessary correction, ensuring that no civilization becomes too powerful for its own good. This mythological backdrop raises a fascinating question. Could the gods of Atlantis have been based on real people? Individuals whose influence was so profound that they became the subjects of legend. In many cultures, gods are often reflections of powerful rulers or divine-like figures. What if Poseidon and the gods of Atlantis were not simply mythical beings, but symbolic representations of the Atlanteans' greatest leaders, individuals whose achievements were so extraordinary that they were immortalized in story and song? The legend of Atlantis, with its divine founders and ultimate fall, might not be just a tale of gods and men. It could be a reflection of the powerful forces that shaped the rise and fall of any civilization. The story of Poseidon's influence over Atlantis and its eventual punishment by the gods invites us to ponder the balance between human ambition and divine will. As we explore the mythological roots of Atlantis, it becomes clear that the tale is more than just a story of a lost city. It is a reflection of humanity's eternal struggle with power, pride, and the forces that govern our world. In the next section, we will step deeper into the heart of Atlantis, imagining what life might have been like in this magnificent civilization. Could the riches of Atlantis have been as grand as its mythic past suggests? What secrets might lie beneath its golden surface? Imagine a place where unimaginable beauty and advanced technology blend seamlessly. A civilization where the very fabric of society is woven with the threads of wisdom, wealth, and prosperity. This was the golden age of Atlantis. Plato's description paints a picture of a society unlike any other, an island kingdom that radiated power, knowledge, and harmony. The Atlanteans, blessed by the gods, created a civilization that, in their eyes, seemed eternal. And for a time it was. At the heart of Atlantis stood a city of breathtaking scale, built upon concentric rings of land and water. These rings were separated by canals and connected by bridges, creating a vast, intricate network of trade routes, pathways, and temples. The city itself was designed with an unparalleled sense of order and beauty. It was said that the streets were lined with gold, silver, and precious stones, reflecting the wealth and opulence of the civilization. The great temple of Poseidon, built in the center of the city, stood as a testament to the power and grace of the gods. Inside, massive statues and intricate carvings adorned the temple, telling the story of the divine favor granted to the Atlanteans. The Atlanteans were not only skilled builders, but they were also masters of agriculture, engineering, and navigation. They had developed advanced irrigation systems that turned their land into a lush, fertile paradise. The island was self-sufficient, its citizens living in harmony with the land and the sea. They were said to have harnessed the power of the elements, winds, tides, and even the sun to fuel their cities, making their society one of the most advanced in ancient history. But the true brilliance of Atlantis wasn't just in its physical structures. It was also in the knowledge and wisdom that flowed through the island. Scholars and philosophers in Atlantis had access to secrets of the universe, understanding principles of science, mathematics, and spirituality that are still beyond our reach today. What if Atlantis was home to a library of knowledge so vast that it contained the answers to the mysteries of the cosmos, the nature of existence, and the future of humanity? What if the Atlanteans possessed wisdom so profound that it could change the course of history had it been passed down to later civilizations? Imagine a world where the pursuit of knowledge and the search for understanding were at the very heart of society. A world where technology and wisdom were not separate, but united in a harmonious vision of progress. This golden age was a time when the Atlanteans believed that their civilization would endure forever, a paradise untouched by the forces of time. But as we know from Plato's tale, the fragility of this paradise was not immediately apparent. The very qualities that made Atlantis so great, its wealth, its knowledge, its ambition, would also be the seeds of its downfall. In the next section, we will explore the rulers of Atlantis, the kings who oversaw this magnificent civilization, and ask the question, were they divine rulers or flawed, power-hungry tyrants? What role did their leadership play in Atlantis's eventual collapse? The rulers of Atlantis were said to be the descendants of Poseidon, the god of the sea, who chose his mortal consort Plato to create a dynasty of kings. There were 10 kings in total, each ruling over a different section of the great island, with the eldest of the 10 taking the role of the supreme ruler. The stories of these kings are steeped in a strange mixture of reverence and caution. While they were seen as divine rulers, direct descendants of a god, their rise to power and eventual downfall suggests a more complex and perhaps darker tale. In the beginning, the Atlantean kings were just and virtuous. Plato describes them as wise and noble rulers, chosen by Poseidon himself for their strength of character and virtue. They were tasked with maintaining harmony and prosperity across Atlantis, managing its cities and ensuring the well-being of its people. These kings created laws, maintained peace, and made decisions with a sense of divine duty. They were said to live in palatial complexes adorned with the finest materials. Yet they maintained an air of humility and reverence toward the gods who granted them power. But as time passed, something began to change within the rulers of Atlantis. The kings, who were once wise and benevolent, became increasingly consumed by their own wealth and power. Plato suggests that the Atlanteans grew proud, arrogant, and obsessed with material gain. They began to believe that their divine ancestry gave them the right to rule over all others, not just in Atlantis, but across the world. The very power that was meant to guide them instead became the force that drove them to greed and excess. Plato tells us that the rulers of Atlantis, in their pursuit of dominance, became tyrants. The kingdom grew in size and wealth, but so did the corruption within its leadership. They sought to expand their empire beyond the borders of their island, eventually clashing with neighboring civilizations. Their arrogance led to war, and the once harmonious society was torn apart by internal strife. It was in this time of arrogance and greed that Atlantis began to lose the favor of the gods. The kings, blinded by their power, ignored the warnings of divine retribution and pursued ever greater conquests. Was the fall of Atlantis a result of these corrupt kings? Were their flaws and moral failings the reason that such a magnificent civilization crumbled so swiftly? As we look at their story, we are reminded of the dangers of absolute power, of how even divine rulers can fall victim to pride. And it is through this shift from virtuous leaders to corrupt tyrants that Atlantis, once a utopia, fell into decline. In the next section, we will look at the connections between Atlantis and other ancient cultures. Did the legacy of Atlantis influence them, or was it merely a parallel development? Could the wisdom and knowledge of Atlantis have spread to other civilizations? As we look at the grandeur of Atlantis, we can't help but notice the striking similarities between the civilization described by Plato and other ancient cultures that followed. From the Egyptians to the Mayans, the similarities in architecture, mythology, and even knowledge are too compelling to ignore. Could it be that these ancient civilizations were influenced by a long-lost society, Atlantis, that existed before them? Or were these similarities the result of humanity's shared quest for progress and understanding? One of the most notable parallels between Atlantis and ancient Egypt lies in their architectural feats. The pyramids of Egypt, with their precise alignment to the stars and their immense size, suggest a level of knowledge and engineering that seems almost otherworldly. Could the Egyptians have inherited their knowledge of geometry, astronomy, and building techniques from the survivors of Atlantis? Plato's description of Atlantis speaks of grand temples, palaces, and even advanced forms of energy, all created with the use of highly sophisticated technology. Some theorists suggest that the Egyptians might have learned these techniques from the Atlanteans, passing down their knowledge through trade or even migration after Atlantis's fall. Similarly, the Mayans, known for their advanced understanding of astronomy and their creation of an incredibly precise calendar system, bear a striking resemblance to what we might expect from an Atlantean society. The Mayan calendar, with its intricate cycles and knowledge of celestial events, suggests a level of intellectual sophistication that echoes Plato's description of the Atlanteans. Some believe that the Mayans, like the Egyptians, were connected to Atlantis, either through direct contact or as a result of shared cultural knowledge. Could the Atlanteans have passed on their astronomical wisdom to the Mayans, who then built upon it in their own civilization? The Sumerians, too, offer intriguing parallels. Their advancements in writing, law, and urban planning could have been influenced by a society that existed before them, one that had already mastered these essential skills. The Sumerians' epic tales, such as the Epic of Gilgamesh, even contain references to great floods, mirroring the story of Atlantis' destruction. Could these stories have been born out of the same ancient knowledge that Plato attributed to Atlantis, passed down through generations? These connections between Atlantis and ancient civilizations raise the possibility that the knowledge of Atlantis wasn't lost at all, but was instead woven into the very fabric of later cultures. Whether it was through direct contact, migration, or the dissemination of knowledge over time, the legacy of Atlantis could have lived on, influencing the rise of some of history's greatest civilizations. But what if these connections are more than just coincidences? Could Atlantis have been the catalyst for an ancient network of cultures, all sharing in the wisdom of a lost civilization? The next section will explore the possibility that the destruction of Atlantis wasn't just a natural disaster, but a divine punishment. Could the gods have intervened to prevent the Atlanteans from advancing too far? Was their fall the result of a warning, one that echoes through time, urging us to heed the lessons of the past? Could the destruction of Atlantis have been more than just a natural disaster? Plato's account of the island's fall suggests that the gods, displeased with the growing arrogance and greed of the Atlantean rulers, chose to punish them. This divine retribution is a central theme in the story of Atlantis, and it raises the intriguing question of whether the Atlanteans were truly punished for their moral failings, or if their downfall was part of a greater cosmic plan. In many ancient cultures, the gods were seen as the arbiters of fate, capable of rewarding or punishing humanity based on their actions. In the case of Atlantis, the gods' wrath was said to be swift and decisive. As the Atlanteans grew more powerful, they began to believe that their divine ancestry gave them the right to rule over others. They sought to expand their empire, engaging in wars of conquest that led to the subjugation of other nations. Plato describes how the once virtuous rulers of Atlantis became consumed by their own ambition, ignoring the warnings of the gods. In response, the gods decided to destroy Atlantis, sending earthquakes and floods that swallowed the island whole. The idea that Atlantis was a place of advanced architectural and engineering achievements invites us to think about the lost knowledge of the past. If the Atlanteans had truly mastered the art of creating buildings that harnessed the energy of the earth, then perhaps their downfall wasn't just a result of their moral corruption. but a consequence of their failure to understand the very power they had learned to manipulate. What if their creations, meant to bring prosperity and peace, ended up being too much for the earth to bear? The power of their architecture may have been a reflection of the power of their knowledge, and the dangers of wielding such power without wisdom. As we move forward, we will explore the possibility that the fall of Atlantis was not just a random event, but the result of prophecies and warnings from other cultures. Could the destruction of Atlantis have been foretold as part of a larger cosmic plan to reset the balance of the world? Or was it simply a result of the Atlanteans' own overreach? Let's explore the ancient prophecies that might have predicted Atlantis' fall and consider what lessons we can learn from them. The story of Atlantis' destruction is a tale of tragedy and mystery, but one that might not have come as a complete surprise. In many ancient cultures, there are prophecies that speak of great civilizations falling, of natural disasters reshaping the world, and of humanity's ultimate fate being sealed by its own actions. Could the fall of Atlantis have been predicted by those who came before and after it? And if so, what do these prophecies tell us about the larger forces at play in the universe? Plato's account of Atlantis suggests that the island's downfall was not only inevitable but also divinely ordained. The gods, displeased with the corruption and arrogance of the Atlantean kings, decided to punish the civilization by sending massive earthquakes and floods to destroy it. But could this have been a fulfillment of a prophecy, one foretold by ancient sages or shamans who understood the cyclical nature of history? Throughout history, many cultures have spoken of a time when the world would be reset by a great flood or other cataclysmic event. The biblical story of Noah's Ark is just one example, but similar flood myths can be found in cultures as diverse as the Babylonians, the Mayans, and the Hindus. Were these myths simply stories passed down through generations, or could they have been inspired by a real event, the fall of Atlantis and the collapse of other great civilizations? Some researchers believe that the ancient Egyptians may have had prophecies of a great cataclysm, one that would signal the end of the golden age of humanity. Their own mythology, with its cycles of creation and destruction, speaks of periodic resets in the history of the world, each marked by a cataclysmic event. The ancient Egyptians were deeply connected to the stars, and many scholars believe that their understanding of the heavens allowed them to predict the rise and fall of civilizations. Could the Egyptians have known about Atlantis, and could they have seen its destruction as part of a larger cosmic cycle? What if the fall of Atlantis was part of a much larger prophecy, one that linked the fate of Atlantis with the future of humanity itself? Some believe that the story of Atlantis is not just a warning about the dangers of human arrogance, but also a cosmic tale that speaks to the cyclical nature of existence. Could the fall of Atlantis be part of a larger plan, one that involves the rise and fall of civilizations throughout history? The question remains, was the fall of Atlantis foretold? And if so, what does it mean for us today? In the next section, we'll look at the possibility that the true story of Atlantis has been deliberately hidden from us. Could powerful forces have suppressed the knowledge of Atlantis in order to maintain control over history? What truths are being kept from us and why? Let's explore the hidden agenda behind the suppression of Atlantis' secrets and what it might mean for our future. As we dig deeper into the mysteries of Atlantis, a chilling thought emerges. What if the true story of Atlantis has been deliberately suppressed? Could there be powerful forces at work, preventing us from uncovering the full truth about this ancient civilization? The idea that the knowledge of Atlantis is being hidden from the public has long been a subject of speculation among conspiracy theorists, historians, and those who believe in the existence of a global elite controlling the flow of information. If Atlantis possessed knowledge that could change the course of human history, what lengths would some go to in order to keep that knowledge buried? One of the most compelling reasons for suppressing the truth about Atlantis could be the civilization's advanced knowledge. If the Atlanteans had truly mastered energy generation, space travel, or even psychic abilities, the implications of rediscovering their knowledge could be revolutionary. Imagine the power that would be unlocked if we could tap into the same technologies or spiritual practices that the Atlanteans supposedly used. Could it be that certain groups, whether governments, corporations, or secret societies, have kept this knowledge hidden to maintain control over the world's resources, power structures, and even our very way of life? There are those who believe that the suppression of Atlantis is not just about controlling knowledge, but about maintaining the current global order. If Atlantis's advanced technologies were rediscovered, they could challenge everything we know about energy, politics, and even human consciousness. Could the elites who control the world's power and wealth have intentionally erased the history of Atlantis to prevent the people from gaining access to this forbidden knowledge? Some even suggest that Atlantis was intentionally erased from history to ensure that no one could ever challenge the status quo. Another possibility is that the suppression of Atlantis is not about power or control, but about fear. What if the truth about Atlantis is so dangerous that it could lead to the unraveling of our civilization? The catastrophic end of Atlantis, whether caused by overreaching ambition, divine punishment, or a global disaster, serves as a cautionary tale. If the knowledge of Atlantis could lead to the same fate for us, could those in power be suppressing it to protect humanity from repeating the mistakes of the past? As we consider the possibility that the truth about Atlantis has been hidden from us, we are left to wonder, what if the knowledge of Atlantis could change everything? Could it offer the answers to our greatest mysteries? How to live in harmony with the planet? How to tap into unlimited energy? How to unlock the full potential of the human mind? Or could it be that the suppression of this knowledge is not just about protecting the powerful, but about protecting humanity from its own destructive tendencies? In the end, the mystery of Atlantis may not just be about finding a lost city. It may be about uncovering the hidden truths that have been buried by time, fear, and power. As we move forward in the search for Atlantis, we may find that the journey is not just about the past, but about shaping the future, one that is grounded in the wisdom of the ancients and the knowledge we have yet to discover.